Fernando Schmude com mais um Leading the Charge no Buffalo Rumblings. E hoje uma grande satisfação poder contar com o Jerry Ostroski aqui, o Big O, né? O jogador de linha ofensiva do Buffalo Bills aí que jogou ali nos anos, no final dos anos, durante a década de 90 até o começo dos 2000. Vamos trocar uma ideia aí com o Big O, falar especialmente de linha ofensiva, né? É um assunto aí que a gente tem tido problemas nos últimos anos, mas os Bills se movimentaram nessa off-season, e quem melhor do que o Big O para avaliar todas essas adições ao elenco, essas disputas por posição, e principalmente fazer a gente entender um pouco melhor essa posição que é uma das mais difíceis, talvez, de serem observadas e da gente realmente analisar. Então vai ser uma troca de ideia bem legal aqui com o Big O. A galera já está acostumada a acompanhar quando é em inglês aí. Na parte final, os últimos 20 minutinhos ali, eu dou uma traduzida, uma geral no que eu troquei ideia com o Big O. Quem consegue compreender em inglês, já aproveita durante toda a live, né? Vai ficando à vontade, Máfia, para mandar perguntas, para interagir. A gente vai trocar uma ideia legal com o Big O, beleza? Big O, thank you so much for coming and for being part of Buffalo Rumblings today and joining us, taking your time. I really appreciate, in name of all Brazilian and international Latin America, Portuguese-speaking countries, Bills Mafia, I really appreciate you joining us today. Welcome to Leading the Charge.
Hey, I appreciate you having me. This is awesome, man. I never thought I'd be a thing in Brazil. I guess I'm not yet, but I'm on the airwaves of Brazil, so that's pretty cool. I appreciate you, Fernando. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much, man. And I gotta ask with the same question I ask everybody every time about: do you have any connection with Brazil, or what do you know about our country? I see you had Lewis Hamilton best ever there. Lewis Hamilton was a big fan of Ayrton Senna growing up, a Formula One driver, a legend for every Brazilian. We have Ayrton as our Michael Jordan, or
right.
A higher standard. So Lewis was a big fan, and every Ayrton Senna fan loves him. So what's your knowledge about our country, man?
So I do have a Bills connection with Brazil. And here's how the story goes. So when I was trying to make it, and I actually told this story today to a friend of mine as we were watching the Indy 500 qualifying. I'm a huge race fan. When we get done with our interview here, I'm going to hop in and watch the All-Star race, NASCAR All-Star race from North Wilkesboro, North Carolina. But my Bills connection with Brazil is I was up in the locker room one day in the off season. I was working out. I was at my locker. I was showered up, put my clothes on and stuff. And Jim Kelly came upstairs from working out, and he's like, "Hey, man," he says, "What are you doing this weekend?" I said, "Nothing. I'm just sitting around waiting. I ain't got much going on." And he goes, "Well, hey, I'm going to Toronto for the Toronto Grand Prix. Do you want to go? I'm hanging out with Team Penske this weekend. I got an extra pass." And I'm like, "You've got to be kidding me." As a race fan, know Penske well. Actually, Penske's headquarters was right by where I grew up, so they were my favorite race team. And Al Unser Jr., who ran for Penske at the time, was my favorite driver. So I'm all fired. I'm like, sure. So we go up there, we do this, we go to the race, we get VIP treatment, everything is awesome. And after the race, it just so happened that when the Toronto Grand Prix was going on, the finals for the World Cup were going on at the same time. And one of the Penske drivers was Emerson Fittipaldi. Yeah. Don't know if you know him, but he is a Brazilian. And so, yes, a legend. So I was actually hanging out with Emerson Fittipaldi and his wife back at the Team Penske motor coach, watching Brazil play in the World Cup while drinking some sort of delicious Brazilian drink that was like lemonade, but it had this crazy effect on you as well. So
probably caipirinha. Probably.
There you go. Yes. Very, very refreshing and very stout. So, so Fernando, that is my Brazilian connection. Obviously, the other stuff, UFC fan, most of tons of UFC fighters out of Brazil.
Yeah.
But yes, never been to the country. Would love to see it one day.
Yeah, and when you finally can come down here, no doubt Bills Mafia here in Brazil will be ready to to have you and to introduce you to all the great places in our country. Don't worry about coming. You'll be very welcome when you finally can get here, man.
Well, we just need to make sure we go to one of those little markets that have all those little vendors making all that food. So I see that on TV all the time. So as long as you go there, I'm good.
Absolutely, you gotta try a Brazilian barbecue. I think you would love that. It's really good.
Yes.
And awesome, man. So before talking about nowadays Bills and this offensive line that he has been retooled, we can put it this way, with some new pieces getting introduced via free agency, draft, and all that stuff. I'd like to ask some questions about your career first, because you played in an era. You just talked about Jim Kelly, and Jim Kelly, for most of us, is still the greatest quarterback, for some the greatest Bill ever, and Josh is doing a great job of becoming the new Jim Kelly, or even surpassing him, maybe, if he can get to the big dance and win it all. But I even told you off topic, I gotta ask you about it, because, man, you were playing on that. You were part of that team of the Music City Miracle, and
yes,
and thankfully, back in that day, okay, I wasn't able to follow it closely, to watch the games closely, and I wasn't part of that moment, that heartbreaking moment, you know.
Right.
But recently we just had the 13 seconds, and it was kind of similar, but the Music City Miracle was just one play, and as a former professional, I guess you had like, okay, we won this thing when you scored the field goal and got ahead in the game, and like, okay, that's it, we won this game, and then that crazy thing happened. Man, how was that? How was the feeling? What can you tell me back on that day, being part of that?
Well, it's actually refreshing, Fernando. You did not ask me about the quarterback controversy, which is most everybody wants to talk about.
Next question.
Right. And well, I'll give you the answer to the next question right now. And that answer is this. When we walked off the field, we were winning that football game. You can say what you want about the decision. You can say what you want about whether it should have been Flutie or it should have been Rob Johnson.
Yeah.
When Rob Johnson, we came off that field that day, we were winning that football game. So he did the job he was supposed to do. And it's hard because you weren't following it then and everything else, but that Tennessee was a madhouse. It's an incredibly loud stadium. They're building him a new stadium real soon with a retractable roof. But that original stadium they've built in Nashville was probably rivaled Arrowhead as like the loudest stadium in the league. Mm-hmm. So we fought crowd noise all day, and then we fought a tremendously good football team. Javon Curse, was playing. They had a tremendous amount of talent on defense. If you studied that game, John Fina had a knee injury. He wasn't really able to play and go. So at one point we had Dusty Ziegler, who had started at center for us, going out and getting us through the game at left tackle. He did an amazing job. So you take all that away, all the adversity that we faced that day. We walked off the field, we were winning that football game. And obviously, forward lateral, no forward lateral, however you want to look at it, I still think it was forward. But however you want to look at it, it's in a span of 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you went from absolute elation and the happiest you can be to the most miserable, sad situation you can be a part of. So yeah, it was very, very tough, but it was one of those games, and everybody said whoever won that game was going to go to the Super Bowl, and obviously Tennessee did that, and then they came up a foot short of winning it, and they had their own heartbreaking finish as well. So yeah, tough day.
Yeah, man. Just I don't know if you saw that Jacksonville Jaguars schedule release video with the writers, the script writers from NFL, joking about NFL being scripted and things like that. So that Tennessee Titans script writer, it was probably the GOAT, because getting that win and then falling short, 1 yard short in the Super Bowl, that's crazy stuff. That's movie stuff,
Yeah, definitely. It was like the ending of Rocky 1. If you've ever saw the movie Rocky 1, it was, however you could leave a match like that or a game like that, and you were that close to winning it and you didn't get it done. So yeah, it was definitely tough.
Yeah, man. And when you say this thing about, okay, when you left the field, you had your job done. It was on the special teams in that situation to close it out. And the same thing could be said about Josh Allen and the boys 2 years ago, when they left the field with 13 seconds left, and they did their job, and unfortunately it wasn't enough. And even when people criticize, like for example, recently Shady McCoy was talking some crazy stuff about Jim Kelly, and I always say this, because when people evaluate Jim Kelly against other greats, and they say, okay, but Jim Kelly couldn't win it all, and I'm like, let's be honest, because Jim Kelly put the team inside the 50 like it was a 40-yard field goal to win it all. So not trying to put all the blame on Norwood, not about it, but just like you said, he did his job. They should have done better or something like that. Man, they did their job, and if the kicker makes that field goal, the Bills are a Super Bowl champion. So it's so hard to evaluate guys based on wins and losses and things like that, because it's a team sport, a total team sport.
Yeah, and Fernando, the one thing everybody forgets to talk about and everybody neglects to emphasize is just how important special teams are in the game of football. This is a section of football. You think about, they talk about total plays in the game, and the offense had 100 some snaps, defense was out there 85 snaps. But special teams, a special teamer like a guy that was Tasker, made his whole career on special teams. Mm-hmm. He's getting 20, 30 snaps a game just on teams. So there's that many more opportunities in that phase as well. So it's that much important. And I really think that if you look at your championship teams, they're all very, very solid in the area of special teams.
No doubt. And it's an area that, if we look at today's Bills, it's not being overlooked by McDermott and their staff, because they really care about their special teams. They invest, like Matakevich, for example. That's a guy who hardly ever plays linebacker, and he's maybe the last option to play middle linebacker if everything goes wrong. But that's guy's such a weapon and special as a special teamer. The same could be said about Taiwan Jones, who isn't part of the team anymore, but has been twice in the last 5 years, maybe, and has been huge. Other guy, Cyron Neal. Cyron Neal never became a mainstream on defense, but he's always there, being important on special teams. So they really care about this phase of the game, and it can be really impactful, right?
Well, look at what Brandon Beane did during the season. I mean, he goes out and he makes a trade for Hines and from Indianapolis, and really, everybody was excited about him coming in as a third down back, a guy that can make plays out of the backfield catching the football. And the biggest impact he made on the team was as a return man. And I think that when Beane made that signing, I think he thought that was more important than the running back aspect of his game. And obviously a bunch of big returns during the season, a couple touchdowns that he scored. But obviously the Brandon Beane regime believes it's very, very important as well.
Yeah, that's great. And I can't agree more than we already do about this. Big O. And
yes, sir.
Let's talk about. Let's start talking about nowadays Bills, and before going through the names of the new guys and the guys who are coming back. I was just talking to off screen about how offensive line is a position that people often, I think, misread or have trouble to evaluate, because it's not like Madden. You have a 95 overall left tackle. You can play him at center, at guard. You can move him all around the line and put him head to head against the best pass rusher from the other team. And it's not really like this. Some guys can play just one side, the transition to the other side, the sets, the technique, even the archetype and the physical, the size, the weight, all matters. And you played center, you played guard, you played tackle at some situations, right? So I was really excited to have you here today because I think you have a lot of experience to talk about what's really needed and why do so many guys struggle to swap sides or to play. They can play inside but not outside, or the opposite also happens. I even saw Taylor Lee one before free agency. He was, I think during the combine, he was talking to Rich Eisen, and he was like, Eisen asked him about, can somebody try to sign him to play right tackle? And he was straight out honest, and he was like, forget about it. It's a nightmare. I can't play right side. I'm a total liability playing the right side. So it's really interesting to think about. And can you explain and make things clear about what's the biggest difficulty of switching sides or switching positions when you are an offensive lineman?
I think it has to do with your training as far as how you were when you were young. We tend to really stereotype positions by size, like you talked about earlier. Tackles need to be 6'4" plus, or need to be 6'5", 6'6" plus. Guards are a certain build. Centers are your smaller guys that are maybe more compact, can move real well, those types of things. And so we get very, very, I almost say we almost get stubborn as to our positions and what we think is needed as far as size. And because of that, a guy like Lawan, who, he's so big, and what he's done, he's probably been a left tackle his entire life.
Yeah.
The day he walked out to Pee Wee football, he was probably a left side guy, always stayed a left side guy, never did anything else. When I went to college, we actually were a team that utilized what we called a quick and a strong side. And it didn't mean one side was faster than the other side was stronger than the other. What it meant was the strong side was the strength of the formation. Usually had a tight end over there. Your quick side was the side where you didn't have a tight end, or if you did have somebody, maybe it was an H-back off the ball. And that's how we lined up. So we actually flip-flopped the entire game. We'd be in the huddle. They'd call a play. They'd say strong right or strong left. That would be the first thing they'd say, which would be, when I played strong tackle for 2-3 years before I went to quick guard. So by matter what the formation was, which is where I went. So that's kind of how I got used to playing both sides of the ball. I did it in college. I did it for 4 straight years. Now the center thing, how that kind of came to fruition, if you looked at some of the stuff as far as how I made it and how I came up, I was on the Bills practice squad for about 1.5 years. So in practice, I kind of became, there's even a pecking order of seniority in the practice squad, right? So I'd get bored. I'd be like, hey, I want to snap the ball today. I'd start snapping. Hey, I want to play guard today. Or the coach would come to me and say, hey, we're playing a right tackle that's a lot like you. I want you to be at right tackle the entire week during scout team on look squad. Marcellus needs to get a look, somebody like he's going to, the body size of what he's going to play against. And that's kind of how I became used to it. But I think we really get, like I said, stubborn, stereotypical, and where we put guys, and guys never get a chance to branch out. Now, that being said, there are some other things that go into this. People are really starting to break down the science of offensive line play. I go down to Oklahoma City, which is about 1 hour and 30 minutes from Tulsa on most Saturdays, and I work with a friend of mine, J.R. Conrad, who played a little bit in the league. He actually was with the Patriots, Jets, and then finished up with the Cowboys. And there is some left eye, right eye dominant stuff that goes into this. Some guys just have a really hard time of playing on the side of the ball opposite of their dominant eye. And we do some different things technique-wise to help those guys out, especially right-eye dominant guys playing on the left side or vice versa, a left-eye dominant guy playing on the right side. So there is a little bit of science into it, but a lot of it is just where you came from, what is your lineage, and how you were trained in college. And are you a guy like Ryan Bates? Ryan Bates can play both sides of the ball plus center, and can get you out of a game as an emergency tackle as well. So most feel that he's better on the left side of the ball, but he definitely can play right side also.
Awesome. Yeah, and just like you said, Bates was a guy who came via trade, I believe, from the Eagles, and a guy who was a late draft pick or drafted. I can't remember right now, but and just Brocker, the guy added now in the late rounds, is another guy who started at tackle and now played guard in his senior season, and that's a guy who reminds me Bates, at least in the situation of the background he's coming from, and
right.
And with Cromer being vocal about I saw an interview when Cromer said, "Okay, I love to move young guys inside and both sides and have them prepared. So maybe this way, at the end of the day, I can put my 5 best guys out there because that's the ideal situation." And so Brocker probably a guy who Cromer can try to develop.
I think Broker probably Bodeger probably plays a little bit of. He's probably when you look at this roster right now with the amount of kind of not really old vets, kind of some moderate years of experience veterans at the O-line position. He probably starts on the practice squad unless he has just a wonderful camp. I got to see him earlier this year at Ole Miss. My son's team actually played them. My son played against him. My son's a defensive lineman. He has some things to work on. Needs to get in the weight room a little bit and do some different stuff there, change his body structure. But you're right. I mean, I think that Cromer is a guy that really, really likes to move dudes around, because you have to understand, in the world of salary cap football, in the 70s and 80s, before the cap really came to be, you could afford to have a veteran, a 10-year guy on your team, a 10-year guard, a 10-year tackle. You could afford to have those guys around that if somebody got hurt, you'd have crazy experience coming in to be able to fill in until that starter got healthy again. You don't have that option anymore with the salary cap the way it is. You can't have 10-year vets just sitting around unless they just willingly take much less money. So you have to have guys that are, kind of that, I hate cliches, but that Swiss Army knife kind of guy that can do a little bit of everything, just because of the way you have to manage your roster and the way you have to manage the salary cap.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bates is a great example of that, because he could obviously he had to play one position well at guard when he finally got his shot, and he got a good deal from the Bears, and the Bills matched it. But those guys have plenty of value in today's NFL, because you never know what's going to happen during the game, and we've seen how for example, losing a center can be a nightmare when you start to have trouble with snaps, high snaps, low snaps, and fumbles being created because of that. So it's really important to have this kind of player, right?
But you have that depth chart up. I mean, I'm not convinced. Obviously, Osiris Torrance is a guy who gets picked in the second round. He was drafted to start, okay? But when you're a second round pick, it's not like you're an automatic starter. I mean, he's going to have to come in. He's going to have to learn the offense. He's going to have to do some things. They're going to make him earn that spot. So if he comes in and he's able to bump Bates out of that right guard spot, I'm not so sure Bates doesn't go to left side. And I know we signed Connor McGovern, but it wasn't like we signed him for a tremendously huge amount of money. So I'm not so sure that McGovern, I think that Bates and McGovern are going to have a knockdown drag out at left guard. That is if Osiris Torrance does what he's supposed to do, which I think he will. I mean, very, very good athlete, tremendously strong, explosive player. I'm not quite sure why he lasted into the second. I think a lot of it has to do with he went from Louisiana to Florida, played at Florida 1 year, played in the SEC 1 year, did a tremendous job. But, he probably has a few things he can work on. And I would imagine that strength and conditioning staff is probably going to work quite a bit on his body composition, trying to get a little bit of body fat off of him and a little more muscle mass. But he's a naturally big, naturally explosive guy. So you think that he would eventually step in. But like I said, I'm not so sure that Bates can't go over there and beat McGovern out either. And now you got McGovern who then backs up everything inside as well. So it'll be an interesting battle at training camp.
No doubt, Bigo. And even David Edwards, that's a guy who started and won a Super Bowl with Cromer, right? So even this guy might be able to sneak in the competition because
right.
A guy who the coach really loves and might have this opportunity. It's interesting that what you talked about Torres because when the pick was made, Bigo, I was like my first reaction to this pick in Portuguese to the Portuguese crown was like, I love the guy. I think he's pro ready. He can be a plug and play guy. Obviously, he's a rookie. He gotta learn. He gotta get experience in pro football. And no guy is a sure thing. But that guy looks like a plug and play guy. And my biggest fear is something like AJ Peneza or now Boogie Bashan, something in this regard of the coaching staff trying to change the way the guy is comfortable playing because a lot of people didn't have Torrance as a Bills kind of offensive lineman because he's bigger guy. He's in like the athletic guy we are used to seeing in our offensive line. And you said just like, okay, they probably want to get him better prepared, but are you afraid they can mess up a little bit with him, with the way he's used to play, the size, the weight especially?
I think that you make a great point, Fernando. I think that's a tremendous point you make about Torrance. And the thing is, I've always felt big, brawler type, naturally strong, physical linemen, you can hurt them more overcoaching them than you can help them. And I think that sometimes there's guys that do things a certain way and you just say, okay, man, the end product is exactly what we want. You go ahead and keep doing what you're doing. I had a similar situation when I was playing. I kind of and what's funny is the way that I would punch in my pass pro and I would use my hands in my pass pro. It happens to be the way they're teaching it now. But my line coach at the time, Tom Bresnahan, was like, hey, I want to get you out of this. I think that you should, we need to do it this way. So I spent 2 weeks in practice. And this was before I became a solid starter. I think I was still on the practice squad. And I think I went like 2 weeks and I didn't win a one-on-one pass pro. I mean, it was awful. And one day he walked up to me. He said, hey, man, he said, remember all that stuff I told you? I said, yeah. He said, forget everything I said to you and just go back to doing it the way you did it. And as soon as he did, I started winning reps again. And you're right. I think that sometimes, and it's also a pro thing. And, a coach gets to the professional level, and it's not necessarily he thinks he made it, but sometimes these guys maybe think that they're a little bit smarter than everybody else because they're coaching in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's true. A lot of times it's not the case. They just know the right person, and they get that break, and they get that job. But yes, you're right. I think that there is a chance you can overcoach a young player and get him in his own head so much that they have a problem, doing what they normally naturally do because they're overthinking it. And but I'm sure Cromer knows these things, and he'll be able to help with just these little technique flaws he might have to help him in the pro game.
Yeah, man. I actually am a little more comfortable with Cromer because he's such an experienced guy, and we've seen some people, I don't remember now, I think it was Mitch Morse in an interview saying that Cromer has some different techniques for different kind of players even, and things like that. So it tells me a lot about him not committing this kind of mistake that you just said about your former coach of, okay, I'm not gonna teach the guy or reconstruct the guy now that he's a pro. I gotta make him play at his best, and I hope it's the way he deals with Torrance. And I even am really excited about having a guy like him, a mauler type of guy, because we've had some trouble recently gaining those tough yards, 4th and 1, 3rd and 2.
Right. And, you're bringing up a great point. And I think that the biggest thing is, Fernando, is that when I looked at our football team after last year, I think it was glowing. It was glowingly noticeable. I think it was, everybody was fixated upon, we've got to get this middle linebacker replacement for Edmonds. We've got to find a second receiver. We got to, everybody was talking about all these different things. And I'm like, we need to fix the football team up the middle. We need to get stronger up the middle on both sides of the football, not just the offensive line, but the defensive line. They go ahead and they address that with Torrance, who we don't have a mauler body type. We did not have a mauler body type at guard like we do now with him. You talked about it earlier. We were all 6'5". We were all flat belly 305 or 300 pounds. Mm-hmm. We looked good in pads. We ran well, but maybe necessarily we weren't just knocking people off the football. And then we go ahead on the other side of the line and we sign Puna Ford, who I think is tremendous signee. And now all of a sudden we have gotten better up the middle. Williams, will see what happens at linebacker. We've got the veterans at safety, although I'm just I guess petrified would be a good term to use as far as their health. And just if they can stay healthy and both stay on the field for an entire season for 17 games. But, no, I think you're right. I mean, we needed to get better up the middle, and we have on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, he sure is here. Like, we need more maulers, and I definitely agree, man. And when I think about what they've done to Epeneza and even Boogie recently, I'm really afraid about, let's make Torrance more athletic. And it reminds me my playing career as a goalkeeper here in Brazil, because I've never been the thin guy, I every time I went to off season, when I came back, I needed to get in shape again and slim down. And when every team that signed me, the coaches were like, okay, we gotta get your fat percentage down, and every time it was like I was used to play with 14 or 15% body percentage. Fat percentage, and they wanted me at 10. And every time when they put me at 10, man, I felt horrible. I felt like, okay, I'm good. I was like, okay. We went to games to warm up, and we started to warm up. And when the game started, I was absolutely tired, and I needed 5 minutes to recover. And the first 5 or 10 minutes of the games, I was like, please don't shoot balls on my goal now, because I'm tired as heck, And after 10 minutes, I could recover, but I always felt way better with the not ideal 13-14%. And I don't know, I just think it changed from people to people. And just like you said about the technique, if you are all your life playing left tackle, you probably are going to feel more comfortable playing left tackle. Right. And if you are all your entire life playing at 14% body percentage, you will need some years at 10% until you really feel good there. So I think Epeneza might be ready this year to finally break out, and he looked good in the embedded video. But I'm a little bit afraid with what they're gonna do with Torrance. I hope they respect his size and his body type.
Right. Well, I think the thing is yes, you don't want to be way overweight, but some guys are just more comfortable with a little bit on them. And if they're playing well, their gas tank is full at the end of the game, they're not having issues finishing games, let them be. I mean, let them be. There's, I think they'll find out real quick where his ideal body weight is and where his ideal body fat is. They've got a lot of really good coaches in that weight room, and, they'll figure that out once they get him around one Bills drive. But you're right. I mean, you don't pick a guy in the second round just to go ahead and completely change him overnight. You pick a guy in the second round because you like what you saw, and you feel like he has a couple of minor tweaks that you can do to him and get him ready to go. So I think you're right on that. Is a very good point.
Awesome. Focusing on the interior, we talk a little bit about this battle and Torrance probably being able to start for us. He looks good. He really looked good in his last season in college, and maybe Bates being able to compete with McGovern. And Carl Tallman just wrote him about what Dallas coach talked about McGovern, and he surely was brought in to be a starter, but with Torrance being drafted, things could change with all the competition. And I even mentioned Edwards is a guy who Cromer is really comfortable with, right? So his question is like, his last question is here about, can we see this offensive line being the starting offensive line? I think there is a pretty good chance. Just like you, Big O, I wouldn't write Bates off because I really like Bates. I think he's really solid. But that's a real possibility, especially with Bates being able to play tackle, and we aren't really comfortable at tackle after Dawkins and Spencer Brown is being expected to really improve this season, right?
You know, when I look at the one thing I think we did really, really well on the inside is we've brought competition to practice. We brought competition to training camp. And what I mean by that is we've got guys in there that are all going to be, all going to be fighting for playing time, fighting for a starting position. And that only makes teams better. So even if McGovern is not able to unseat Bates or vice versa, they'll be better because of that competition. Now, Edwards, I don't know much about. I watched McGovern quite a bit playing for the Cowboys. I've seen him play quite a bit. He can move. He's more of a guy that gets people blocked because of his athleticism and length than he is because of his size and his strength. So, I think that philosophically, Torrance is different than what they normally go after. I think McGovern, Edwards, Bates are more that body type or that kind of a player that they normally look at. The thing that disappointed me about this offseason, and you brought it up, that tackle position right now really does not have much. There is no competition at tackle. We know who the starters are: Dion Dawkins and Spencer Brown. Does Spencer Brown stay healthy? If he does, I think he has a very, very good year. The thing I love about Spencer Brown is he's a tone setter. And if you take Spencer Brown and the way he plays when he's healthy, which is physical and nasty, and you put him next to Torrance, you could have a really powerful side of the offensive line. That right side should be good to go. Dion Dawkins, I know that, he did, I believe, make the Pro Bowl or whatever. A lot of that is, guys will start getting voted in because of name recognition or just being around a long time. I thought Dion took a little bit of a step back this season. I think that his situation had to do a little bit with body composition. I thought he got a little heavy. I thought that he was a little too big and had some issues with speed rushers and had some issues with speed up front. Hopefully they have talked to him about that, and he has a good offseason, gets some weight off of him, and gets back to that player that we all know and love. But saying that, a big part of that is if I don't have anybody behind me pushing me, human nature is human nature. You get complacent, and you get real comfortable with what's going on. So I don't like to have seen him go out and try to find another tackle. We got what they got. Quisenberry, obviously, he's probably your third tackle. And then also Ryan Bates will be a guy that if you have a disaster can go outside and get you out of a game. So, but yeah, we are a little bit thin at that tackle position.
Yeah, no doubt. And one great thing about those additions is about their flexibility, because not just Bates, but McGovern also was used by Dallas even as a fullback and even split wide to screen, to throw some screens and things like that. So both have the versatility to play both sides, and Bates even the possibility of playing a little bit of tackle. But how about Torrance? Because the everybody agrees that okay, Torrance, or everybody says Torrance is mainly a guard because of his size, maybe not that quick feet and things like that. But with all the eggs being on Spencer Brown basket, and I'm also high on Spencer Brown, and I think we finally will be able to see him with an off season of work because he struggled with the injury last off season and the surgery, a back surgery for such a big guy. It's really tough. And now with an off season, I hope he can finally become this mauler at right tackle. But just in case it doesn't go right, and maybe with Torrance being a second round pick, and you having Bates, you having McGovern, you having Edwards, you having guys, so you can bring Torrance slowly. Do you see any any possibility of Cromer maybe trying Torrance a bit at tackle to see how he does there, or to see if he has any chance of playing there if the need arises?
I think that is something that if you look at the depth at tackle, that's probably something internally they've talked about. And while they don't want to go ahead and flood a rookie's mind with a bunch of different plays and different positions and different techniques, he has played right tackle in the past. And I would think that maybe if something were to happen catastrophically to Dawkins or Brown, especially Brown, because I don't think you can put Torrance on the left side. I haven't seen him. Maybe you could, but do you go ahead and say, okay, we're going to move him outside and let him play right tackle, and then we've already got a guy like Bates and that we know can play right guard. So you just put him in there, and now you got Bates, you've got McGovern, and you bump Torrance out. That is a very strong possibility. I've been thinking about that myself recently because it's something that it could be a possibility. They don't want it to be, but it's something that they would probably look at if they had to.
Awesome. Yes, Spin is like, okay, I want Torrance starting right away, and I'm with Spin here, and that's why I brought that point about not messing up with the big guy's body, you know.
Well, don't get me wrong. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I agree with you. I don't want to do it either, but when it comes down to it, if you have to do it, you do it for the betterment of your football team. And, you know, that's why I was wondering, especially with the lack of movement at that tackle position in the offseason, maybe that's something they've thought about.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking about, because Kissenberry, okay, he's a vet, he's a good run blocker, but that's not the guy who's going to beat Spencer Brown in a competition. We saw it last season. So they got to have more a plan B or a plan C.
But I think, Fernando, you're looking at a roster that even though people have cried for the running game to come back in a prominent way, and, you know, there was a big discussion for a long, long time about, do you take Bijan Robertson if he's available at that spot? You know, the thing is this: if you're going to establish a very, very strong running game, okay, you're going to take the ball out of Josh Allen's hands 25 to 35 times a game. Are you willing to do that? Do you want to do that? And that's the big thing. So even though they're trying to bring a guy like Torrance in to get more physical up front, which they do need to do, I still believe they want to go ahead, and this offense will continue to be a strong passing offense with a complementary running game. I don't think you're ever going to see him come out with this crew and just sell out and try to really be a ball control running team.
No doubt. And even in this situation, Torrance can be a huge asset, because we saw him dealing with Javon Carter and those powerful guys inside in pass blocking. So that's a huge addition at this department too, right? Eduardo is saying he's following us. Okay, Big O, that's your first Portuguese lesson here of the day.
You.
Acompanhando essa live, is following this live, okay? All right. And he has a question here about today. What are the real chances of this team showing that they got better? They really improved from the mistakes showed in the last season. How do you see this team compared to last season's one, and starting from the offensive line, but in general,
Right.
Do you see a more complete?
Right. I think you look at a team that, like we talked about, I felt they need to get better up the middle. They did. I think Dorian Williams is going to be a star. I think Dorian Williams with Matt Milano is going to be a tremendous tandem for the Bills. I really like the Williams pick. I got to see him live as well. Tulane played Tulsa. My son plays at Tulsa, so I've got to see him live. I think he's a heat seeker. He goes and finds the football. He puts people on the ground. I think the biggest thing right now with the Puna Ford pickup is now you've got another true big guy inside, which leads us to this question: what are we going to do with Ed Oliver? Now, if you ask that we don't have a second receiver crowd, or we're not a fan of the receiving core we have crowd, i.e. The Gabe Davis haters. Everybody wants Ed Oliver gone. They want him traded. And if you could trade Ed Oliver and get rid of $10 million, then maybe you can go out and pick up a marquee wide receiver. I don't know. But one thing I think that the Puna Ford pickup does is it allows Ed to move across the defensive front. So I don't think you're going to see Ed just play like he did last year, which is normally a 3 technique and stay over the guard. You might see Ed Oliver play outside in certain situations at defensive end. He does pose a physical mismatch with some players because of his quickness and his speed. And I think that you'll see the Bills utilize that, especially with Sean McDermott now calling the defense. So I do think we got better up the middle. I'm still a little bit nerved up about safety. Obviously, wide receiver, we've got some guys. We went ahead and took the kid out of Tennessee. I think a shorter kid who's a big dude. That gives us some size outside. We have not had a 50-50 ball guy in quite some time. So now you've got that. Obviously, you picked Dalton Kincaid. Everybody was just clamoring. I laughed because I guessed a lot of people on Twitter after this is the I've been longing for 12 personnel for years. I've been longing for 2 tight end sets. And I'm like, you still don't have a 2 tight end set. You don't have 12. You might have 11 and a half, but you don't have 12 because Kincaid really isn't a true blue tight end. But what he does do and what he gives the Bills is a chance to stay in the same personnel and do a lot of different things out of the same personnel, which keeps the defense from, making substitutions, changing people in and out, because the Bills now won't be tipping what they're doing because of the personnel groups that are coming in. They'll be able to hide a lot of stuff with Kincaid being able to go out into the slot. Do I think the Bills got better? I do think they did get better. I think they did address some needs. But I'm going to tell you what, I do truly believe after this offseason, the AFC East is the toughest division in football. You can say what you want about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is the first ballot Hall of Famer. Aaron Rodgers makes the Jets absolutely legit. Their defense is championship caliber. Rodgers, while he's not the Rodgers that he was 10 years ago, Aaron Rodgers is still a really, really good quarterback and can play good football. They've got exponentially better. The Miami Dolphins, if Tua can stay healthy, they are better. They might be the fastest team in the NFL. So our division is incredibly difficult. The Patriots are the Patriots. Nobody wants to talk about Bill O'Brien coming back. Bill O'Brien going back to New England is as big as Aaron Rodgers going to the New York Jets. I think Bill O'Brien's that good of a quarterback guy, that good of an offensive coordinator. So while we got better, we did, but our division got really good too, and it's going to be a dogfight all season long.
No doubt. We can't forget that the Peyton Manning that won the Super Bowl for the Denver Broncos wasn't the Colts version of Peyton Manning also, and he was able to win it all. So Rodgers is going to be a problem, no doubt. Awesome, Big O. I think I held you longer than I wanted. Sorry for that, man. But
no, man.
Was so good.
I'm enjoying myself. I'm always available. I love doing this stuff. Obviously, COVID has made us communicate differently. And now that we have an opportunity to sit here on a Sunday afternoon, early evening in Tulsa, and I got to talk to my friend in Brazil, I mean, what could be better, right? I mean, it's awesome. I really appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. Spain is like, whoa, my Portuguese must be getting better because I can understand. Some guys sometimes they enter here and they hear a little bit and okay, I'm out, can't understand anything. But Spain is becoming fluent in Portuguese now. Thank you so much, brother. And please, guys, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Buffalo channel, Buffalo's Rumbling channel. You help the community and our job here. We really appreciate it.
Hey,
Big
and
goal.
real quick
Yeah.
before we go, Thursday nights, 9 Eastern, 8 Central, Line to Gain, myself and Sarah Larson. We talk Buffalo Bills, amongst other things, right here on the Buffalo Rumblings Network. Check us out, and we'll be on this Thursday at 8 p.m.
Absolutely. And Sarah soon is going to be here too. She just got back from vacation, and sooner rather than later, she's going to be here, being part of leading the charge too. So, Big O, I really appreciate. When are we going to see your boy playing for the Bills, man?
I don't know, man. My boy is very, very smart, so he does real well in school. So we'll see, man. He's doing good. He's got 3 more years left, and then I also have an older son named Jackson who coaches football at Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa. So they're both still in the family business, and it makes me very happy.
Awesome. The future is bright. If he was a senior, man, no defensive tackles next season so far. So big opportunity, but 3 years left. So we're gonna wait and keep an eye on Tulsa games to follow
right,
him up. Big O, thank you so much for taking your time and to being here. Really appreciate. Had a blast talking to you, and the doors are always wide open here in Leading the Chart. Whenever you can, it will be a pleasure to have you here, man.
All right, Fernando. Thanks for having me. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good evening.
Good evening. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Thank you so much, American Bills Mafia, who's been with us. I'm going to continue a little bit in Portuguese, but great talk with Big O. Always a great guy and knows so much about offensive line. I hope you enjoyed it. Hit that like button, subscribe to my own channel, Fernando Schmude, at YouTube. And I'll be back next Tuesday. Okay, next Tuesday I'll be back talking about some positional battles in this OTAs, the OTAs that will start tomorrow, actually. And so in English on Tuesday, Leading the Charge, 5 p.m. East, I'm going to talk about some positional battles to keep an eye on. And next Sunday, then in Portuguese, I probably will talk about a 53-man roster and my first preview with the 53 after the first week of OTAs. Thank you so much, Mafia. I'm going to continue in Portuguese to close it out. Go Bills! Tá aí, galera. Legal trocar essa ideia com o Big O, né? Sabe muito de linha ofensiva, né? Teve experiência jogando, né? Nos times dos Bills ali dos 90 até o comecinho dos anos 2000. Carl, I didn't answer you here, right? About the Bills trying to run behind Torrance and Brown. That's the idea, right? That's what Big O said, the idea of having a really strong right side with Brown, a healthy Spencer Brown, athletic, nasty guy, and Torrance being another addition there. But time will tell. The idea is this one. And this right side can be a really good one for run blocking, especially for those power runs with maybe even Mitch Morse as a puller, right? As we've seen when Josh Allen runs those QB power runs. So it's a possibility, and we really need this mauling aspect of the game in our offensive line, and I think Torrance can add that. And Billy really loves Ed Oliver being moving around, especially in a contract year, right, Billy? I'd love to see him fresh in those clear passing situations, because you can play Puna Ford and Daquan Jones together inside on early downs and keep Oliver fresh to it in passing situations. So it would be nice and and Richard says a little bit defensive end. And even with different fronts, right, with that McDermott can use in clear passing downs, it's gonna be really interesting. And talking about the Jets, no doubt they're dangerous, as are the Dolphins, and just like Big O said, I can't write the Pats off, guys. They with Bill O'Brien back, they can be back. They have a strong defense, and they can win some games and cause some trouble for some teams. It's gonna be a dogfight, no doubt. So that's it. Let me finish in Portuguese. Thank you so much, guys. Hit that like button, subscribe, and see you on Tuesday to talk some positional battles. Go Bills. Máfia, valeu. Então aí, ó, troquei essa ideia com o Big O. Deixa o seu like aí, não vai embora sem deixar seu like, sem se inscrever aqui no canal do Buffalo Rumble, sem se inscrever no meu canal, Fernando Schmude, no YouTube. Né? Agradeço muito. Se inscreve lá na Twitch também, FH1S Live, conteúdo de Madden lá, né? @Fernando Schmude no Twitter, Bills News BR no Instagram, com todas as notícias sobre os Bills, tá? E quem quiser colaborar com o Pix, sou muito grato também a todos que já ajudaram, que ajudam. Extremamente necessário aí esse patrocínio da galera para que eu possa continuar dedicando esse tempo a falar de Bills em português. E assim, a conversa com aí, a galera já está aprendendo já está aprendendo português, só que a tradução do Bills lá no Google fica meio ruim, né? Vai às contas, ninguém se anima muito isso. Carl, almost good, man, but Bills in Portuguese are like the bills you gotta pay monthly, or weekly, so that's not a real good translation, but yes, thank you and have a good night, brother. Então tá aí, gente. Obrigado a todos que já ajudaram com o Pix, fernandoschmude@hotmail.com, né? Sou totalmente grato. E a conversa com o Big O passando muito aí pela minha ofensiva, né? Troquei uma ideia legal, ele tá ansioso, ele acha que o Torrance é um cara que pode chegar e jogar, escolhido na segunda rodada para chegar e jogar como titular. Ele acha que o Torrance tem potencial para isso, tem capacidade total para isso. Ele acha que talvez o coaching staff pode sim querer tirar um pouco do peso de gordura dele, adicionar um pouco de massa magra. E aí eu comentei que essa transição de corpo às vezes me preocupa, né? Como aconteceu com a Epenesa. Eu acho que a questão da Epenesa foi mais drástica. Espero que não façam nada drástico com o Torrance. Até compartilhei a história minha de quando eu jogava e como eu me sentia melhor ali com 13, 14% de gordura do que com os 10 ideais ali, né? Que se falava sempre. E é isso, eu acho que o Torrance está acostumado a jogar com esse peso. Qualquer mudança muito drástica agora de cara vai fazer com que ele tenha dificuldades. É uma questão, leva tempo para o cara se habituar a esse novo corpo, né? E não se sentir fraco, não se sentir mal, até o cara de fato se sentir bem, né? Até estou curioso pro I got it, Carl. Don't worry, man. It was a good try. Thank you so much. Mas assim, né? O Torrance ele está acostumado a jogar nesse peso. Se você mudar ele completamente o estilo dele de cara, a tendência é que não vai dar certo. Ele vai levar um tempo para se sentir bem com um novo corpo, um novo peso e tudo mais, né? Então, se for uma coisa sutil, tudo bem. Você consegue ver uma diferença logo, mas uma coisa muito drástica, como foi a do Epenesa, cara, leva tempo para o cara se sentir bem, tá? E a gente viu com o próprio Epenesa, o tempo que está levando para ele, de fato, conseguir jogar, e teve suas vantagens, mas teve também suas desvantagens, vamos ver nesse ano. Mas, enfim, o Torrance pode ter essa capacidade de ganhar essa vaga de right guard, e aí o Big O falou que ele espera, não acha que o Bates está tão garantido assim, como reserva de luxo que todo mundo está pintando. Ele acha que o Bates pode muito bem ganhar essa vaga do McGovern como left guard, que o McGovern veio contratado para ser um titular, sim, mas não veio recebendo um baita salário que o cara tem que ser titular e tal, né? Ele veio para ser um cara ainda jovem com potencial e tal, mas a competição vai acontecer. O Bates também tem um salário decente que ele ganhou ali do Bears e os Bills decidiram cobrir, né, na free agency ali, ele como um free agent restrito. Então, assim, essa possibilidade do Bates jogar no lado esquerdo, que segundo o Big O é até talvez o melhor lado para o Bates jogar, né? Muita gente acha o Bates melhor no lado esquerdo, mas, enfim, ele jogou bem dos dois lados, já mostrou o potencial dos dois lados. De qualquer maneira, essa competição vai ser muito interessante. A partir de amanhã, OTAs aí, depois tem o obrigatório, né? A gente vai ver muita competição no interior da linha, inclusive com o David Edwards, que é um cara que já jogou com o Cromer lá no Rams, foi campeão e pode ser um fator nessa disputa, né? O Big O não gostou também dessa questão de faltou investimento na posição de tackle, na opinião dele. Ele tem confiança no Spencer Brown, ele acha que o Spencer Brown pode, nesse ano saudável, render bem melhor, pode ser um tackle mais físico do lado direito e, de repente, formar junto com o Torrance um lado direito mais físico, mais preparado para o bloqueio, para o jogo terrestre. O Spencer Brown, quando saudável, é um cara que, como o Big O mesmo falou, um cara que move jogadores, né? Ele abre espaço, ele move jogadores, ele é aquele cara que joga com uma agressividade, que quer botar o defensive end no chão, né? Que quer empurrar o cara até para fora do campo e tal. Então, ele joga com essa fisicalidade. O Torrance é outro cara forte. Esse lado direito pode se tornar um lado direito muito interessante para os nossos running backs correrem atrás desses bloqueadores mais físicos, né? Então, é interessante isso, mas é inegável que a gente não tem lá grandes alternativas para os nossos tackles, se a gente perder algum deles, né? O Kissenberry é hoje o terceiro tackle, é um cara limitado, né? E aí eu questionei, será que o Torrance não pode ser preparado nesse sentido também, testado? Ele falou, olha, poder pode, né? O Cromer pode até testar isso com ele logo cedo, se ele não ganhar a posição logo de titular, mas ele acredita que o coaching staff tem alguma coisa internamente, os caras têm algum plano para a posição, porque olhando, né, aqui no depth chart, a gente não tem, né, Tommy Doyle, Kissenberry, não são nomes que inspiram muita confiança, Alec Anderson, né, e segundo o próprio Big O, o Dion Dawkins, ele achou que estava meio pesadinho, meio fora de forma na última temporada, tendo problemas para lidar com speed rushers, caras com velocidade. Ele também mencionou que, assim, essa questão de o Bills não trazer muita competição na posição de tackle, da natureza humana dar aquela relaxada, o Dawkins às vezes dá aquela relaxada também, né? E aí é um problema, né? Porque é um cara que os Bills precisam dele jogando no altíssimo nível e, de fato, nem sempre isso aconteceu nessa última temporada. Então, essa questão dos tackles talvez a maior preocupação nesse momento na nossa linha ofensiva, já que no interior a gente tem muito dessa competição e essa competição vai fazer com que a gente acabe, independente de quem jogue, a tendência é que quem joga esteja bem preparado, seja a sua melhor versão, já que vai estar lidando com muita competição ali, né? Vai ter muita competição durante toda a pré-temporada, sem dúvidas. Tá? Então, isso a gente falou dessa linha ofensiva do Buffalo Bills. Tive a possibilidade de trocar uma ideia com o Big O sobre a carreira dele e perguntei do Music City Miracle, né? E ele mencionou assim que assim, que eu não perguntei da controvérsia de quarterbacks entre Flutie e Johnson, né? E aí ele falou, aí eu falei que era a próxima pergunta, ele falou assim, Fernando, cara, o que a gente tem em mente é que quando a gente saiu de campo naquele jogo, a gente saiu de campo com o papel cumprido, né? O field goal botou os Bills na frente e acabou o jogo, era só taclear ali, special teams, acabou. Né? Então, se deu certo ou deu errado o Rob Johnson jogar naquele dia, foi o suficiente para fazer os pontos e ganhar o jogo ali naquele momento. Ele falou que até hoje ele acredita que foi um passe para frente, não foi um lateral, né? Foi uma jogada irregular, mas que o Special Teams tem essa importância que muitas vezes a gente ignora. Né? A gente acha que o Special Teams não é tão importante assim, até que esse tipo de coisa acontece. Aí eu mencionei da avaliação do Jim Kelly, que eu sou totalmente contra essa coisa que se fala, o Jim Kelly nunca conseguiu ganhar um Super Bowl. Cara, contra o Giants, ele botou o time ali na distância para chutar um field goal completamente, não vou dizer simples, porque simples, um field goal ali de mais de 40 jardas no Super Bowl não é simples, né? Mas um Super Bowl dentro da linha de 50, cara, hoje em dia, você espera que o seu kicker faça, né? Naquela época, talvez não tanto quanto hoje, mas era um field goal completamente possível ali, que o Norwood não conseguiu acertar. Não é dizer que perdeu 100% por causa do Norwood, obviamente muitas outras coisas aconteceram o jogo inteiro, mas o Jim Kelly botou o time na condição de ganhar. Então, quer dizer que o chute do kicker muda o quão bom o Jim Kelly foi, né? Uma situação que não cabia a ele, né? Eu discordo disso. Então, eu acho assim, do mesmo jeito que o Big O falou do Rob Johnson e desse dia do Music City Miracle ali, que os caras conseguiram fazer o que tinha que fazer, né? O Jim Kelly conseguiu fazer o que tinha que fazer naquele Super Bowl contra o Giants. Bastava acertar aquele field goal e ganhar o Super Bowl. Infelizmente não aconteceu. E do mesmo jeito, o Josh Allen e o ataque dos Bills há 2 anos atrás fizeram o que tinha que fazer contra o Chiefs, né? E aí a defesa e os 13 segundos, né? Acabaram com as possibilidades dos Bills. Mas, enfim, é o que ele falou, assim, a questão do valor do Special Teams. E aí eu mencionei como o coaching staff de hoje realmente leva a sério o Special Teams. E a gente muitas vezes não leva, né? Agora tem bastante linebacker no grupo. A gente vê, às vezes, o cap ali que dá para economizar cortando um Tyler Matakevich. A gente fala, de repente agora dá para cortar o Matakevich, né? E tal. Mas o cara tem um papel primordial como capitão do Special Teams e tal, que é difícil. Ou então, às vezes, a gente quer cortar um Siron Neal para manter mais um cornerback de valor ali, um jovem de potencial. Mas o Siron Neal tem muito valor no Special Teams. Então, assim, é com vários jogadores. E Special Teams tem esse valor, né? A gente não dá valor quando está ali o tackle sendo feito, quando o trabalho deles está sendo feito, a gente não dá muito valor, a gente acha que aquilo é o normal, né? Mas quando sai a big play ali de um retorno e tal, e a gente paga caro por causa disso, a gente vê o valor que o Special Teams tem. Então é bom que o nosso coaching staff realmente é atento a isso, valoriza isso, né? E aí o Big O até mencionou o Naheem Hines, que não teve um grande papel no nosso ataque, mas teve um grande papel como retornador, né, nessa última temporada, e realmente Special Teams muito importante. E, além disso, eu conversei com o Big O, perguntei bastante sobre as técnicas, porque a gente pensa, né? Até mencionei o videogame, o Madden, e falei, cara, a gente pensa que é igual no Madden, a gente pega o jogador de linha ofensiva e põe ele em qualquer lugar ali na linha e pronto, é isso, né? Vai render ali, ou então, o Dion Dawkins é meu melhor jogador de linha ofensiva. Pô, se o pass rusher ideal dos caras está do lado esquerdo, vou botar o Dion Dawkins lá, vou ficar mexendo ele na linha, igual mexe em defensive end e tal, pass rushers da linha. Não é assim que funciona na NFL, tem um porquê, né? Então, pedi para ele explicar um pouco ali dessas diferenças de jogar de um lado do outro. Mencionei o Taylor Lewan, né, ex-tackle ali do Titans, que falou no Rich Eisen, quando questionado se podia ser contratado para ser right tackle para algum lugar. E ele falou, sem chance, né? Eu jogando de right tackle é caminho aberto para chegar no quarterback, sou horrível de right tackle. E aí o Big O falou assim que, cara, vai muito... tem vários fatores, por exemplo... inclusive falei, né, Big O, o Big O jogou de center, jogou de guard, jogou de tackle. Então, pedi para ele falar um pouco por que alguns caras conseguem, outros não, qual que é a dificuldade. E aí ele mencionou essa questão, foi bem interessante, que ele mencionou assim, o Lewan, por exemplo, um cara grande, um cara que foi jogando de primeira rodada, provavelmente jogou de left tackle desde gurizinho, né, nas Pee Wee Leagues ali, ele jogava de left tackle, então sempre jogou de left tackle, obviamente que vai ter muita mais facilidade com o pass set ali do lado esquerdo e tudo mais. E assim é com vários jogadores, né? Aí ele falou, no caso dele, ele era tackle na faculdade, mas os caras, a linha ofensiva tinha um esquema diferente, eles consideravam o lado forte, o strong side, e eles não chamavam o outro lado de weak side, eles chamavam o quick side do outro lado, o lado rápido, o lado forte e o lado rápido. Então o lado forte com o lado que o tight end fazia parte e tal, né? E o lado rápido, então, o lado onde, de repente, a defesa estava mais leve, com o weak side linebacker e tal, né? Um edge rusher mais rápido e tudo mais. E aí, o que acontece? Os caras, na faculdade, no college ali, o Big O, o ataque dele, mudava os caras de lado de jogada para jogada, dependendo se tu alinhava com o teu strong side no lado esquerdo, o Big O jogava de left tackle. Quando tu alinhava com o teu strong side do lado direito, o Big O jogava de right tackle, isso no college. Então, no college, ele depois ele jogou de guard da mesma maneira. Então, ele teve experiência jogando os dois lados, e jogando de tackle, jogando de guard. Então, isso fez com que ele aprendesse a jogar e lidasse com repetições dos dois lados e desenvolveu ele dessa maneira, criou essa versatilidade nele. Aí eu mencionei o Nick Brocker, que foi draftado aí, vindo de Mississippi, que é um cara que jogou de tackle, jogou de guard, então provavelmente vai ter essa versatilidade também como profissional, né? Então, passa muito pelas repetições que o cara teve, até chegar na NFL. E ele falou que tem um lado científico também da questão do olho dominante, né? O cara ter o olho dominante do lado direito ou esquerdo, o cara ser propício a ter mais vantagem de um lado ou do outro. Eu até prestei atenção, falei, pô, ele falou, será que ele está falando do lado dominante, né, do destro e do canhoto? Mas não, ele estava falando do olho, realmente, da visão, né, e coisa que eu nem sabia que existia aqui, né, mas realmente sempre tem a gente sempre tem um lado, um olho com um grau um pouco melhor que o outro, né, e aí ele falou que tem esse lado também de achar que o cara do olho dominante do lado vai ter mais facilidade de jogar de um certo lado, do outro, então tem essa área também, mas é muito dentro disso daí. E ele falou que também muito essa coisa da gente simplificar e pensar, o cara é maior, né, e tem braços mais longos, é mais atlético, o cara deve jogar de tackle, o cara de repente é mais compacto, né, e mais parrudinho, mais forte e tal, de repente jogar mais no interior. O center, de repente, é um cara um pouco menor, mais leve. Então, tem esses clichês, né? Mas que nem sempre realmente se aplicam. Então, é questão de ver o jogador realmente em ação. Então, bem legal o feedback do Big O nesse sentido, né? Para a gente aplicar com a linha ofensiva dos Bills hoje, que a gente tem um Bates que joga no interior ali tranquilo. A gente tem nos dois lados e até de tackle. A gente tem um McGovern que também já jogou dos dois lados. Então, tem caras com essa versatilidade. O Brocker chegando também com essa versatilidade. Então, os Bills têm todas essas possibilidades à sua disposição para essa disputa, para essa batalha por posições que nós veremos aí nesses OTAs. E de maneira geral foi isso, Mafia. Um bate-papo bem legal aí com o Big O, né? Podendo falar um pouco da carreira dele, um pouco da posição de linha ofensiva, da visão que ele tem para esse Buffalo Bills, né? E aí teve até a pergunta aqui que eu passei do Eduardo, né? Sobre em que termos o time evoluiu para esse ano. Ele acha que o Bills evoluiu, adicionou, ele ainda tem fica um pouco preocupado ainda com o depth na posição de safety. Ele gostou demais da escolha do Dorian Williams, acha que o Dorian Williams vai ser uma estrela ali de middle linebacker, né? E viu o Dorian Williams jogar de perto contra Tulsa, que é a universidade que o filho dele joga, né? E realmente ele gosta muito do Dorian Williams, acha que pode ter impacto muito cedo, né? Aí ele falou da questão do Ed Oliver, né? Que com a chegada do Puna Ford, o Ed Oliver talvez fique disponível para trocas, mas a gente não sabe se o Bills vai conseguir algum valor numa troca pelo Oliver, não é muito provável, né? Então vai depender. Tem gente que não gosta do Gabe Davis como wide receiver 2, talvez trocar o Oliver por um wide receiver, possibilidades que o Big O jogou aí, né? Que podem aparecer, mas ele está curioso para ver o Big Oliver sendo movido, até jogando defensive end às vezes, tentando explorar matchups aí para o pass rush. Agora que tem o Puna Ford para alinhar por dentro também, juntamente com o Daquan Jones em algumas possibilidades. Armas para o McDermott tentar usar da melhor maneira, né? E foi isso, Mafia. Um bate-papo bem legal com o Big O aí. Espero que vocês tenham gostado, né? Focando bastante em linha ofensiva. Na terça-feira tem outro Lead in the Charge, às 6 da tarde, tá? Aqui do Brasil. Em inglês, esse de terça-feira, tá? Eu vou estar falando de disputas, de batalhas por posições que a gente vai estar vendo nos OTAs, no training camp. OTA volta, né? Os Bills voltam a treinar amanhã, ter OTAs amanhã e depois de amanhã. Então, na terça, depois de amanhã, eu estarei falando um pouco de batalhas por posições aí, batalhas que a gente pode ficar de olho, e quem eu acho que pode surpreender ganhando algumas posições. E no domingo, totalmente em português de The Charge, então, para falar das novidades da semana, as notícias dos OTAs, e de repente até trazer aí o meu primeiro esboço de elenco de 53 pós uma semana de OTAs. Então, todos convidados para esses próximos 2 de The Charge de terça e de domingo que vem. Para quem não viu, domingo passado o Greg Thompson esteve aqui, foi muito legal o bate-papo com o Greg Thompson, falando, né, do elenco dos Bills de maneira geral e de possíveis adições aí, possíveis movimentações para abrir cap space, para que os Bills possam ainda se reforçar. E na terça-feira eu fiz a análise toda da tabela dos Bills com uma previsão de recorde, né, final. Lembrando que do ano passado, né, eu analisei e falei que achava que ia dar ali um 14-3 e a gente ficou com 13-3 porque não teve o jogo, não. Eu fiquei entre 14-3 13-4 na análise da tabela da temporada passada. Então, quem quer ver a análise dessa tabela dessa temporada, olha aqui no Buffalo Rumblings, que está aí o vídeo de terça-feira passada, analisando jogo a jogo toda a tabela dos Bills e o meu palpite de recorde para o final da temporada, tá? E então, na terça e no domingo, né, mais 2 episódios de Linha de Charge aí, em inglês e em português, tá? Eu conto com todos vocês aí da Bills Mafia para estar acompanhando, e agradeço demais você que está comigo, acompanhando sempre, dando essa força para o Leading the Charge, para o canal do Fernando Schmude, para essa fase no Buffalo Rumblings, que tem sido espetacular, né? Adicionando interação com a galera gringa também, mas a galera BR principalmente, e latino-americana aí que acompanha, México, Peru, Chile, né? Eu agradeço demais todos que estão sempre junto aí, participando. Não vai embora sem deixar seu like. Se você está vendo em outro momento, muita gente não assiste aqui, né, ao vivo, acompanha depois. Deixa seu comentário, vai ser um prazer interagir com você, conhecer você. Segue lá o @Fernando Schmude no Twitter, tudo que é sobre Bills eu retuito lá, tá? Além disso, o Bills News BR no Instagram, né, perfil no Instagram, Bills News BR, tudo que é notícia de Bills em português, tem notícia hoje lá, né? O aniversário de Josh Allen hoje, né, tá lá no Bills News BR, o link aqui pro Leading the Chart também, né? F1S Live tem conteúdo de Madden, tudo de Madden sempre lá no F1S Live na Twitch, tá? Sempre com o nosso Bills. E o Pix aí na tela, fernandoschmude@hotmail.com, para quem quiser colaborar, não tem valor mínimo, gente. Qualquer valor me ajuda bastante para poder continuar esse trabalho aqui, tentando cobrir os Bills aqui do Brasil da melhor maneira possível, né? Para manter toda a máfia que não entende inglês ou que quer entender em português, ou de países que falam a língua portuguesa, ou até da América Latina, né, que consegue entender aí um pouquinho português aí com línguas não tão iguais assim, mas parecidas, né? Então agradeço a todos, o Pix está na tela para quem puder ajudar, agradeço demais, fernandoschmude@hotmail.com. Volto na terça então, Máfia em inglês, domingo totalmente em português, muito Bills nessa semana, agradeço a participação de todos, né, interação no chat sempre acontecendo, e só tenho a agradecer a participação de todos que estiveram junto comigo. Um ótimo final, uma ótima noite aí, um ótimo final de domingo, uma ótima noite para toda a máfia. Vejo vocês daqui a 2 dias no Líder Charge, terça-feira, falando das batalhas por posição nos OTAs. Um grande abraço, até a próxima e Go Bills!